All right, so we moving on. So we went over quite a few definitions once again. Quite a few definitions. Now, we're about to really get into all of that. Now, all of this, once again, was really for us to understand a little bit more on what the District of Columbia really is, the act of it, the District of Columbia Act of 1871, and why it is so important for us to really pay attention to the law, our history, and what is really going on around us. You know, and this is done by Team Law. This is a really good review of it all, and I really ask you guys, and I invite you guys to go and check these things out on your own. You know, look into these things on your own because it is important. It is important. All right, so let us get into the District of Columbia Act of 1871 and what this actually is, what it means, what it actually meant for America and the people that lived here. All right, so let's look at it. So people sometimes ask us. I read the District of Columbia Act of 1871, and it seems like it seems like it only sets up a local government like Chicago or Seattle. So I'm curious, how does that act show that they instead formed a private corporation? All right, our response, Team Law. If you were to take the act out of its historical context and from the present, looking to the past, imagine who the parties are. We might agree. However, it is highly unlikely that anyone can ever understand any historical effect by looking from the present to the past. All right? Therefore, we find the only way to truly understand that or any act is to follow our standard for review. All right, because once again, it's going to be extremely hard for you to look from the present to the past. You're not going to understand that. So look at from our standard for review. What is the standard for review? All right, the standard for review. Let's look at it really quickly and just pull up something easier. So the standard for review, rule number 1, to understand any relationship, you must first understand who the parties are from their origin. First, understand who the parties are from their origin. All right, always know yourself first. Start Genesis. B, discover the true nature of all parties second. All right, number 2, then you must understand the historical and environmental nature of the relationship. And 3, only then can you understand how applicable laws may affect the relationship. Thus, it is time to study such laws. It is time to study the law. All right, we're going to study the law and some history. All right, we're going to do it. And history was boring in school, but you know what? It's not boring now because all your taxes and all your money and everything is going to get taken from you. And if you don't pay attention, all these Democrats and everything is going to take your whole life. And we have to pay attention because at the end of the day, we all want a republic. We want a republic. So let's go. Let's get it. All right. Following the standard for review, we can resolve the inquiry not by delving into the act in its entirety, but because the act is really long, and so this is why you guys need to look at it yourself, but by simply discovering who the involved parties along with comparing who the involved parties are, along with comparing a small portion of the historical background to effects of the act. All right? Because in 1871, the corporation of the United States did not exist, the date of the act shows it was made by the original jurisdiction, Congress. So the original Congress, the people who were elected initially, set by the Constitution for the United States of America. All right, this act originally was created by them. All right, the act itself describes its venue as all that part of the territory of the United States included within the limits of the District of Columbia. All right, the District of Columbia was originally provided for in the Constitution for the United States of America at Article 1, Section 8, specifically in the last 2 clauses. All right, this is where the Article 1, Section 8 talks about the District of Columbia and what it can do. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and look at that really quickly because I want you guys all to know what these things say and to follow because we're most likely going to review it again because I like to do that kind of stuff. But what does it say? Let me pull it up. So the last 2 clauses of Article 1, Section 8, once again, pay attention to those capital letters. Capital letters are nobody's friend except for the person who writes it. I just made it up, but it works, I guess. But so last 2 clauses of Article 1, Section 8. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district. All right, this is Congress's power. This is Congress's power over the district to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may by cession of particular states, by giving up rights of particular states, and the acceptance of Congress. All right, Congress must accept these giving ups of the rights by particular states. This is what it's telling you. All right, and the acceptance of Congress. Become the seat of the government of the United States. Sorry. And the acceptance of government. Become the seat of the government of the United States. Become the seat of the government of the United States. And to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings and such. All right, so what does cession mean? Cession means the formal giving up of rights, property, or territory by a state. All right, so they gave up rights or territory of particular states. All right. So once again, so what does Article 2, what does the last two clauses of Article 1, Section 8 say? We're going to go over it. All right. So it says to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases. Once again, pay attention to those capital letters because they ain't playing with it right here. All right. In all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may by cession. We went over what cession means. What does it mean? The formal giving up of rights, property, or territory by a state. All right. So they gave up rights, property, or territory of particular states. Which states did they give up rights or property from? Who knows? But what rights did they have to do that? Who did they ask to do that? Who knows? So right now, we can already tell that this part is unlawful in the beginning. So we already seen some business happening, some foolishness, some tomfoolery, some whatever. But whatever, we're going to read on. And the acceptance of Congress. All right? Become the seat of the government of the United States. By giving up rights, territory, and the acceptance of Congress, this district become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. All right, pay attention to this. Pay attention to that. The consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be. All right, pay attention to this last part. For the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. Let that part sink in. All right? And to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. So let me just make clear, like, look at the second. So, and the second part says to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. So they said that they're going to pretty much make all the laws necessary and proper for carrying into all the powers that were mentioned previously. Not just this one, all the other ones too, but they added these ones at the end and you got to carry them out. They literally added them in and they were like, oh, you got to carry all of them out and follow it by the Constitution. So they added all of these things that the people were going to be for, and then they were just like, oh, put this in there too. And then when it talks about 10 square miles, the people were like, oh, okay, whatever, because when you're a new country, there was a majority of people that just didn't understand. And once again, we don't understand a lot of what's going on, and we need to be educated about it. All right? They didn't really understand how important this 10 square miles was, or was going to be, and we do now. We need to be aware of it. We need to be paying attention of it, and we need to be calling this out, because it's not appropriate and it was not legal what they were doing. But over time, because we have not said anything, we haven't called anybody out, implied consent. I've already said this, implied consent, and this is what's happening right now. All right, so moving on to getting back into it. So So once again, we ended specifically in the last two clauses. Then, on July 16th, 1790, in accord with the provisions of those clauses, the territory was formed in the original District of Columbia Act, wherein the 10 square mile territory was permanently created and made the permanent location of the country's government. All right? So it was made the permanent location of the country's government. And that is to say, the territory included the actual government. Under the act, Congress also made the president the civic leader of the local government in all matters in said territory. So, once again, all right, you need to understand that they made this area a territory, all right? They didn't really do anything big yet, all right? They didn't do anything big yet at all. They just made it a whole 10-mile square territory. And what I want everybody to really pay attention to is who came up with this idea to put this in the Constitution, to who put this inside the clauses, who put this in, to put these in the articles. Who did that? Who wanted that? Somebody wanted that. Somebody did, because it wasn't any of the Free Republic. The Free Republic. I know that there was a lot of people that wanted to go back to Britain, but did they really come up with this in the beginning? To put this 10-mile square, to put this to because when you think about this in the beginning, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with this. All right, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with what they're doing, but we're going to get into it and who thought about this. That's what I want you guys to understand. Who thought about this and who allowed Congress to just have all this supreme control over this 10 square mile district that didn't even have anything in at the time. All right, they put the government there afterwards. So who thought about that? Can somebody please answer? Hello, please answer me. Answer me. Hello, somebody. Help me out. Help me out. Put it in the comments. Put it somewhere below, because we got to answer this. All right, so the president was made the civic leader of the local government. All right, the local government of that territory, in that said territory. So that was a local government. They already started to call it that in that time. All right, so once again, the president of America was a president and also a civil leader inside this territory, because why? They didn't answer to anybody. Remember that. Remember that. They didn't answer to anybody. They had exclusive legislation in all cases, all right, over such district. They didn't answer to anybody. So what was going on? Then on February 27th, 1801, under the 2nd District of Columbia Act, 2 counties were formed, incorporated, and they were incorporated into that. They were formed, incorporated into that territory, that local government, and their respective officers and district judges were appointed. Further, the established town governments of Alexandria, Georgetown, and Washington were recognized as constituted. So they were organized and grouped together. They were recognized as constituted and placed under the laws of the district. All right, under those 3 towns were recognized and constituted and placed under the laws of the district, its judges, etc. The United States Supreme Court has repeatedly called this act the District of Columbia Organization Act, because they're an organization. They're an organization. Or the Charter Act. What is the charter? The initial. So the first act, the Charter Act of the District of Columbia, and recognized it as the incorporation of the municipality known as the District of Columbia. Municipality is a corporation, you guys. Corporation. All right, so the government is now inside of this 10 square mile territory that is a corporation. All right, so remember that the District of Columbia is a corporation where the government lives. All right, the District of Columbia is a corporation formed in 1801. Then on March 3rd, 1801, a supplementary act to the last act added the authority that the marshals appointed by the respected district court judges collectively form a county commission, with the authority to appoint all other officers as may be needed in similarity to the respective state officials in the states whence the counties Washington and Alexandria came, those being Maryland and Virginia in respect. So basically what they did here was a start of the government blowing up. This is what they did to make the republic was about small government and people just understanding that it was just going to be small, it was going to be compact, it was going to be concise, and the people were just going to rule their own life. All right, they were going to have the states were going to answer to them, and the states were going to help them. The state was going to be their elected representative. All right, that was how it was supposed to be. What they did here was the absolute opposite of that. Because one, they didn't even ask anybody about what they were supposed to do. Remember, the constitutional republic was meant and made for them to start asking people about if they wanted to even create this organizational act in the first place. All right? If they wanted to create this organization act in the first place that was housing their government. All right, they did not. In 1790 was when the government moved there. When Congress moved, the president was when our government was moved there. In 1801, 10 years later, was when they made it a corporation. Once again, who thought this up and who convinced people to move the government and to put these moves in there? Who did that? Who did it? Who let for real? Who did it? So somebody knew that they were gonna need to have these things in place because they put all these things in place and they made that territory a municipality, a corporation that controlled the government. And what happens in that territory? They have that inside that territory, whoever runs that territory, which is Congress, has exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever. So once again, Congress in that location doesn't have to answer to anybody, not even us. That is why they gave up the rights of particular states, because that was the beginning. And what? Implied consent. Nobody said anything because why? They might not have understood because they didn't research it. Just like most of you guys are sitting out there at home watching stupid Kardashians and everything else, watching sports and NBA and all these things that don't even matter. Rotting your brain cells when you need to be studying the law and studying your history, protecting yourself, your family, your children, and making sure that the future is there for all of us to really enjoy. Because right now, with the way things are going, we're about to all get messed up. We're all about to get kicked into some FEMA camp and just have all our rights taken away. Because why? Already, the government is within District of Columbia, and within the District of Columbia, Congress is the one that's running it. Congress runs the corporation. Remember, within a corporation, there has to be rulers and a president and everybody. All right, just like a regular corporation, there's CEO, there's the treasurer, and all that stuff. All right, this was the beginning of all of that. And within this territory, they have exclusive control, just like within any business. That business has exclusive control over their business. All right. Hello, somebody. Let's get it together. Let's get it together because we're about to get it. We're about to get it. So it's to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases. What? So once again, let me put this back into you. It's a municipality, all right? What's a municipality? A corporation. All right, what's a corporation do? Make money. Make money. All right, how you think they're making money? How you think they're making money? Right? What? By erecting forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. That's their product. That's the product of Washington, D.C. All right? Their product is all of these things. And how do you get to use all these things? By driver's licenses, by Social Security, by health insurance, all of these things. All right? But I'm not saying that. This is what the law says. This is what the law says. Conspiracy theory, my butt. This is what the law says. All right? Get into it. Hello, somebody. Hello, somebody. You don't believe me? Look it up. You don't believe me? Look it up. Go read a book. I'm coming for them. I'm coming for it. I'm coming for it. We all need to get it together. We all need to get it together.